What happens when Hollywood's most iconic voice refuses to back down? When a legendary actor decides enough is enough and walks away from one of television's most watched talk shows? It only took 31 seconds for Piers Morgan to destroy what should have been a simple interview. 31 seconds that turned a friendly conversation into an explosive confrontation that nobody saw coming. The studio lights are bright. The audience is buzzing with excitement. Samuel L. Jackson walks onto the set of The Awkward Hour with that signature confidence that has made him one of the most recognizable actors in the world. Everyone in the room knows who he is. The applause is thunderous. He waves to the crowd and takes his seat across from Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan is sitting back in his chair, looking relaxed, maybe a little too relaxed. He has that smirk on his face, that look that says he thinks he is in control. He probably thinks this is going to be another easy interview where he gets to show off and make his guest uncomfortable. Samuel L. Jackson, welcome to The Awkward Hour, Piers says, still wearing that smirk. Thanks for having me, Piers, Samuel responds. His voice is calm, measured, professional. He is here to promote his latest film, nothing more, nothing less. The first few minutes go smoothly. They talk about the movie. Samuel talks about working with the director, about the intense action scenes, about what drew him to the role. The audience is engaged. Everything seems normal. But then Piers decides to shift gears. So Samuel, let me ask you something. Piers leans forward, and you can see it in his eyes. He's about to say something he thinks is clever. You have played so many tough characters over the years. You are always the guy with the gun, the guy with the attitude. But in real life, do you think maybe you are a bit typecast? Do you think maybe Hollywood just sees you as one thing? The question hangs in the air. It is one of those questions. That sounds innocent on the surface, but has an edge to it. Samuel's expression does not change. He looks at Piers for a moment, and then he speaks. Typecast? I do not think so, Piers. I have played a wide range of characters, dramatic roles, comedic roles, everything in between. If people love seeing me in certain types of roles, that is because I do them well. That is called being good at your job. It is a perfect answer, confident without being defensive. But Piers is not satisfied. He wants to push further. He wants to create a moment. Right, Piers says, nodding like he understands, but his tone suggests otherwise. But do you not think that maybe, just maybe, you have been playing the same character for 20 years? The angry guy? The guy who yells? I mean, let us be honest. How different is Nick Fury from any other character you have played? The audience goes quiet. You can feel the tension building. This is not a normal interview question anymore. This is Piers. Trying to provoke a reaction, Samuel sits up a little straighter in his chair. Piers, with all due respect, I think you are oversimplifying what I do. Nick Fury is a leader, a strategist. He is not angry. He is focused. He is commanding. If you watched my films, really watched them, you would see the nuance in every performance. But I guess that requires paying attention. Oh, that last line lands hard. The audience reacts with a mix of gasps and nervous laughter. Samuel just called Piers out on national television, and Piers knows it. His face flushes slightly. The smirk is gone now. Now he looks irritated. Paying attention? Piers repeats, his voice rising. I pay attention just fine, Samuel. I watch movies. I watch your movies. And from what I have seen, you are basically playing the same character with different costumes. I'm just being honest here. Someone has to say it. The crowd is completely silent now. This has gone from awkward to hostile in a matter of seconds. Samuel looks at Piers, and for the first time, you can see a flicker of genuine annoyance in his eyes. Someone has to say it? Samuel repeats. Or maybe someone just wants to say it to get a reaction. I came here to talk about my work, Piers, not to be insulted by someone who clearly has not done his homework. Piers laughs, but it is not a genuine laugh. It is that fake laugh people do when they are trying to act like they are unbothered but are clearly bothered. He waves his hand dismissively. Oh, come on now. Do not be so sensitive. I am just having a conversation. This is what we do here. We have real conversations. We do not just sit here and stroke egos. You are a big boy. You can handle a little criticism, right? And there it is. The moment that pushes things over the edge. Calling Samuel sensitive. Suggesting he cannot handle criticism. Telling him to be a big boy. It is condescending. It is disrespectful. And everyone in that studio can feel it. Samuel leans forward. His voice is calm, but there is steel in it now. Criticism is fine, Piers. I've been in this business long enough to handle criticism. But what you are doing is not criticism. You are trying to bait me. You are trying to create drama for your show, and I am not interested in playing that game." Piers sits back, crossing his arms. The defensive posture is obvious. He is not used to being challenged like this. Most guests on his show either back down or get flustered. But Samuel is neither backing down nor getting flustered. He is standing his ground with complete composure. "Playing a game?" Piers says, his voice dripping with sarcasm. "I am not playing any games. I am asking you legitimate questions about your career. If you cannot handle that, maybe you should not be doing interviews. Maybe you should just stick to reading lines off a script where someone else tells you exactly what to say." The audience gasps. Several people actually say, "Oh," out loud. This is crossing a line. This is no longer an interview. This is Piers Morgan attacking his guest on live television. This is him being entitled, being arrogant, being completely out of line. Samuel looks at Piers for a long moment. The silence is deafening. Then, without a word, Samuel reaches up and unclips his microphone. The sound of the clip coming undone is loud in the quiet studio. Everyone knows what is about to happen. "What are you doing?" Piers asks. And for the first time, there is a hint of panic in his voice. He realizes he has pushed too far. Samuel stands up, placing the microphone on his chair. He looks down at Piers, and his voice is perfectly calm, perfectly controlled. "I am done here. I came on your show to talk about my work, not to be disrespected. You want drama? You want conflict? Go find someone else. I have better things to do with my time." Piers stands up too, and now he is scrambling. He knows how bad this looks. A guest walking off his show. This is going to be everywhere. This is going to make him look terrible. "Samuel, come on. Do not be ridiculous. Sit down. Let us talk about this. You are overreacting." Samuel turns and looks at Piers one more time. "I am not overreacting. I am reacting appropriately to being insulted. There is a difference. Maybe you should learn it." And with that, Samuel L. Jackson walks off the set. Just walks right off. The audience erupts. Some people are cheering. Some people are shocked. The cameras are still rolling, catching every second of it. Piers is standing there, looking stunned, looking angry, looking like he has no idea what to do next. The producers are probably losing their minds backstage. This is live television. This is not supposed to happen, but it just did. One of the biggest stars in Hollywood just walked off. One of the most watched talk shows because the host could not keep his ego in check. Piers tries to recover. He turns to the camera, that fake smile back on his face. Well, that was unexpected. I guess Samuel could not handle a little honest conversation. We will be right back after this break. But nobody is buying it. The audience is not buying it. The people watching at home are not buying it. Everyone can see what just happened. Piers Morgan insulted his guest, talked down to him, tried to provoke him, and when that guest had enough dignity to walk away, Piers tried to spin it like Samuel was being difficult. Let us rewind a bit and look at how we got here, because this did not happen in a vacuum. This is the result of Piers Morgan's entire approach to interviewing. He does not interview people to have a conversation. He interviews people to create moments, to get viral clips, to make himself the center of attention. From the very beginning of this interview, you could see it. The way he looked at Samuel, the way he phrased his questions, every single thing was designed to get under Samuel's skin, to make him react, to create that explosive moment that would get people talking. When Samuel talked about his movie, Piers barely listened. He was just waiting for his turn to talk, waiting for his moment to drop that first provocative question about being typecast. And when Samuel handled that question perfectly, gave a composed, intelligent answer, Piers did not back off. He pushed harder. That is the thing about Piers. He does not know when to stop. He does not know when he has crossed the line. Or maybe he does know, and he just does not care. Because for him, the line is the point. The line is where the drama is. The line is where the ratings are. But Samuel was not having it. When Piers said that thing about playing the same character for 20 years, Samuel did not lose his cool. He just pointed out the truth. That Piers was not paying attention, that he was oversimplifying, that he was wrong. And that is when Piers really showed his true colors. Because instead of backing down, instead of acknowledging that maybe he was being unfair, he doubled down. He called Samuel sensitive. He told him to be a big boy. He talked to a grown man, a legendary actor, like he was a child who could not take a joke. That condescending tone, that entitled attitude, that belief that he can say whatever he wants and his guests just have to sit there and take it. That is what makes Piers Morgan such a difficult person to deal with. He thinks the interview is about him. He thinks his guests are there to serve him, to give him material, to make him look good. But Samuel flipped that script. Samuel made it clear that, no, actually, I do not have to sit here and take this. I can leave. And when Piers made that final comment about reading lines off a script, about not being able to handle interviews, that was it. That was the moment Samuel decided he was done. Think about what Piers said there for a second. He basically told Samuel that all he does is read lines, that he is not smart enough or capable enough to handle a real conversation. To say that to anyone would be insulting. But to say it to Samuel L. Jackson, a man who has been in the industry for decades, a man who has worked with some of the greatest directors in cinema history, that is not just insulting. That is disrespectful on a whole different level. And Samuel handled it perfectly. He did not yell. He did not curse. He did not make a scene. He just calmly stood up, removed his microphone, and walked away. That takes real strength. That takes real confidence. Because walking away when someone is trying to provoke you is harder than fighting back. Piers wanted a reaction. He wanted Samuel to get angry, to yell, to give him that viral moment. And Samuel gave him a moment, just not the one he wanted. Samuel gave him a moment where he looked like a professional, and Piers looked like a bully who got called out. The way Piers tried to spin it at the end was almost funny, saying Samuel could not handle honest conversation, as if what he was doing was having an honest conversation and not, deliberately trying to antagonize his guest, as if there's something wrong with having enough self-respect to walk away from someone who is disrespecting you. That fake smile he put on for the camera, that attempt to make it seem like he was the reasonable one and Samuel was being difficult. Nobody watching believed that for a second. The audience in the studio did not believe it. The crew did not believe it. The people at home did not believe it. Because here is the truth that Piers does not want to admit. He lost control of that interview the moment Samuel stood up. All of his power, all of his authority as the host, it meant nothing when his guest decided he was done. And that must have been humiliating for him. Piers Morgan built his career on being controversial, on pushing buttons, on getting people riled up. But there is a difference between being challenging and being rude. There is a difference between asking tough questions and being disrespectful. And Piers crossed that line. Throughout the entire exchange, Samuel remained calm and composed. Even when Piers was clearly trying to get under his skin, Samuel kept his cool. He answered the questions thoughtfully. He defended his work without being aggressive. He called Piers out on his tactics without resorting to insults. And when it became clear that Piers was not interested in having a real conversation, when it became clear that he just wanted to provoke and insult, Samuel made the decision to leave. Not out of anger, not out of inability to handle criticism, but out of self-respect. That is what makes Samuel the good guy in this situation. He knew his worth. He knew he did not have to sit there and be talked down to by someone who clearly had an agenda. He knew that his time and his dignity were more valuable than whatever ratings boost Piers was hoping to get from this interview. And Piers showed exactly who he is, an entitled host who thinks he can say whatever he wants without consequences, a person who values conflict over conversation, a person who would rather score points than have a meaningful discussion, a person who, when called out on his behavior, tries to make it seem like the other person is the problem. The contrast could not be clearer. On one side, you have Samuel L. Jackson, professional, dignified, willing to engage in conversation but not willing to be disrespected. On the other side, you have Piers Morgan, provocative, condescending, more interested in creating drama than in actually talking to his guest. Let us talk about that moment when Samuel stood up, because that moment is everything. It is the moment when all of Piers' tactics fell apart. It is the moment when the power dynamic completely shifted. Piers thought he was in control. He thought he could push and prod and Samuel would just sit there and take it because that is what guests are supposed to do. But Samuel reminded everyone watching that no, actually, you do not have to sit there and take it. You can leave. You can choose to remove yourself from a toxic situation, and there is nothing wrong with that. In fact, that is exactly what you should do. The look on Piers' face when Samuel started to unclip that microphone, that moment of realization, that panic, because he knew he had gone too far. He knew that this was going to blow up. He knew that he was about to become the villain in this story, not the clever host who got an interesting reaction from his guest. And his response? Telling Samuel not to be ridiculous, telling him he was overreacting, still trying to make it Samuel's fault, still trying to spin it like Samuel was the one being unreasonable. That is textbook deflection. That is what people do when they know they are wrong but refuse to admit it. Samuel's final words before he walked off are so important. He said maybe you should learn the difference between overreacting and reacting appropriately to being insulted. That is such a perfect response. Because he is right. He was not overreacting. He was reacting in exactly the way someone should react when they are being treated poorly. Society has this weird expectation that people, especially public figures, should just tolerate being disrespected, that they should smile and take it, that if they stand up for themselves, they are being difficult or sensitive or unprofessional. But that is not true. Standing up for yourself is not unprofessional. Allowing yourself to be mistreated is not professional. Samuel showed everyone watching that it is okay to have boundaries. It is okay to say, this is not acceptable, and I am not going to participate in this anymore. That is not weakness. That is strength. Think about all the other guests who have sat across from Piers Morgan and been subjected to his tactics. How many of them wanted to walk off but did not? How many of them sat there and took it because they felt like they had to? Because walking off would be seen as unprofessional or difficult? Samuel did what so many others probably wanted to do but could not. He set a precedent. He showed that you do not have to tolerate this kind of treatment, no matter who the host is, no matter how big the show is. Your dignity is worth more than any interview. And the way he did it, with complete composure, no yelling, no dramatics, just calm, measured, and final. That made it even more powerful because it showed that he was not acting out of anger or emotion. He was making a calculated decision based on principle. Piers probably thought he could get away with it. He probably thought he could insult Samuel, provoke him, and then somehow come out looking like the smart one, the one asking tough questions. But he miscalculated. He underestimated Samuel, and he paid the price for it. Because now, instead of having a controversial but watchable interview, he has an interview where his guest walked off, and everyone is going to remember that. Everyone is going to talk about that. And not in the way Piers wanted them to. The thing about moments like this is that they reveal character. They show who people really are when the pressure is on. And what we saw was Samuel being exactly who we thought he was. A professional, a man of integrity, someone who knows his worth and refuses to compromise it. And Piers revealed himself too, as someone who thinks he can get away with anything, as someone who does not respect his guests, as someone who is more interested in creating drama than in having real conversations, as someone who, when confronted with the consequences of his actions, tries to blame everyone else. The audience reaction tells you everything you need to know about who was right in this situation. When Samuel walked off, people cheered. When Piers tried to spin it, people saw through it immediately. The audience knew. Everyone watching knew. Piers crossed a line, and Samuel had every right to walk away. This was not about Samuel being unable to handle criticism or tough questions. This was about Samuel refusing to be disrespected on national television by a host who thought he was untouchable. And in that moment, Samuel showed that actually, no, you are not untouchable. You can be held accountable for how you treat people. 31 seconds. That is all it took for Piers to destroy what should have been a straightforward interview. 31 seconds of condescension, of provocation, of disrespect. And in response, Samuel gave us a masterclass in self-respect and dignity. So when we look back at this moment, what do we remember? We remember Samuel L. Jackson standing up, literally and figuratively, for himself. We remember him refusing to play Piers Morgan's games. We remember him choosing his dignity over drama. And we remember Piers Morgan learning, perhaps for the first time, that there are consequences when you treat people poorly. This interview will be talked about for a long time, not because it was a great interview, not because anyone learned anything valuable, but because it was a perfect example of what happens when entitlement meets integrity. When someone who thinks they can say anything meets someone who knows they do not have to listen to it. Samuel walked into that studio as a guest. He walked out as a legend, not because of his movies, not because of his fame, but because he showed everyone watching that self-respect is non-negotiable, that you do not have to tolerate being treated poorly, no matter the circumstances, that sometimes the best response is to simply walk away. And Piers was left standing there on his own set, trying to explain to his audience why his guest just walked off, trying to save face, trying to maintain some sense of control. But it was too late. The damage was done, and everyone could see exactly who the villain was in this story.